When Henry II came to Dublin in 1171, he looked at the suburbs of the city and he granted a charter to the suburbs, giving them a liberty from the taxes of the city. And so the area around Thomas Street and around today's Coombe and places like that all became self-administering. But of course he gave these areas under the charge of various religious orders. So a number of liberties, 5 or 6 liberties, were set up, started by him, and over the next number of decades charters were issued to other parts of Dublin. In Dublin in the 12th and 13th centuries, it was quite an impressive city because it was surrounded by walls with around 30 gateways and towers. In fact, it was one of the biggest cities in Northern Europe. It was a city of trade, exports, imports. It was a very vital place, a great place to live in those days. It was also quite an expensive city to live in. One of the effects of all these French Huguenots and Dutch settlers living here in the Liberties was they brought in and introduced their own style of architecture. And for 50 years, from the 1690s, the predominant architectural style in this part of Dublin was the Dutch style, the gable building. And in the building behind me, which is called La Rochelle, it's an office, or it's an apartment complex. It has on the top the style reminiscent of old Huguenot Dublin, old Dutch Dublin, with the stepped up gables or the round gables or the half circular gables. And this is just a salute to Dublin's history of the Liberties. Here on Kevin Street, I'm leaning against the only original remnants, if you like, of the medieval Archbishop's Palace. The Protestant, eventually the Protestant Archbishop of Dublin, but of course in medieval times he was Catholic. So this palace was known as the Archbishop's Palace of St. Sepulchre. And St. Sepulchre had one of the biggest liberties in Dublin, and it stretched from here all the way almost to Harold's Cross, if you include our manor farms. So it was a very, very important and revenue yielding liberty for the Archbishop.